Finally, in SEAL training, there's a bell. All you have to do to quit is ring the bell. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to wake up at 5 o'clock. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to do the runs, the obstacle course, the PT, and you no longer have to endure the hardships of training. If you want to change the world, don't ever, ever ring the bell.
You are listening to the Kill the Quit podcast hour presented by Kill Clip Performance Drinks.
Enjoy drinking Kill Clip after sweaty workouts, big rides, full rounds, long days, longer nights, or whenever you feel the need to get back up to full speed.
Kill Clip Performance Drinks for Warriors. Ignite, endure, recover. And now, Mark Zinno.
Welcome into Kill the Quit, brought to you by Kill Clip. I am your host, Mark Zinno. This week's guest, I'm excited to talk to a different guest than we've had before here on Kill the Quit. He is a 7-time state champion in competitive barbecue. He has 5 Resort State championships and over 200 top 10 overall finishes in barbecuing. He is also the director of barbecue marketing for Traeger Grills. It's Chad Ward here on Kill the Quit. Chad, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, dude, thanks for having me.
All right, so a much different background than we're used to here on Kill the Quit, but very, very excited to talk to you because, I mean, look, you know, the military fitness stuff that we usually deal with, there's kind of a repetitive theme through all this, but clearly you're in an entirely different world. And so from that standpoint, I'm curious to hear your story. And tell me, I mean, how do you get started in barbecuing? Because it's not like kids grow up thinking, you know, I'd like to be a grill master one day. That's exactly what I want to do. So kind of, you know, give me your early childhood and, you know, were you athletic? Were you into sports? How did you end up ultimately doing this?
Yeah, so I started cooking pretty much at a young age, just around the house with family and stuff, barbecuing. And then it kind of really hit me once I went to college and ended up renting a house with some buddies. And we just liked having everybody over on the weekends and socializing. Also, you know, you brought up athletics. Played athletics all growing up, mostly baseball. And after college and cooking and hanging out with all of our buddies, we had to go get real jobs. So my first job was I was a software consultant. So software consultants usually fly out on Sunday night, fly home on Friday night. So the last thing you want to do is have all your buddies over on Saturday, make a mess, have a big cookout, and have to leave the next day. So me and my roommate in college actually ended up taking the same job, and we got home on a day early. And so Saturday night we were hanging out and kind of BSing, and I was like, you know, I'd love to get the old band back together. How can we do it? And we stumbled across barbecue competitions. And so that was back in 2007.
Well, let me ask you, though, where did you grow up? Because, I mean, barbecue, I guess, is native to the South or in the Midwest. Like, what part of the country did you grow up in?
Yeah, so I grew up in Lakeland, Florida. It's kind of I always say Florida had a belly button. It'd be Lakeland. It's kind of dead in the middle of the state, north, south, east, west, between Tampa and Orlando. Okay,
so, I mean, were your parents big into barbecuing and cooking, or was it just, I mean, because usually, as you said, you grow up with it, but who taught you?
All kind of self-taught, just kind of reading and a lot of trial and error. You know, so just try different things. And for me, I grew myself a lot on, you know, when you're going through, you know, college, you don't have much of a budget. So I always say I started cooking things that were like 15 minutes from going out of date. Stuff that was in the discount. Then, you know, you just kind of find it and add some flavors to it and do a little bit of cooking and see what you can turn out.
Okay, so when you and all your buddies would get together, what sort of things would you guys cook? Was it necessarily grilling, or was it just any kind of food?
It was a little bit of back and forth. I mean, a lot of ribs, you know, so that falls into that not super long cook, but, you know, 3 to 4 hours. You know, a lot of chicken, because we did back in those days, I mean, we were pretty big into working out and mostly more into powerlifting than anything else. So a lot of high protein stuff. So we had a lot of chicken breasts, a lot of chicken thighs. And still to this day, one of my favorite things and simplest things to cook is boneless, skinless chicken thighs. They're quick, they pack a ton of flavor, and they're relatively cheap for what you're getting out of them.
When you went to college, was there any thought of culinary school? What did you go to school for?
No, my degree's in finance, and I never really thought about culinary. Yeah, but I never thought. And honestly, the way I got into finance was I kind of didn't know what I wanted to study. I knew I wanted to be business, and then I was kind of like, well, if you can follow the money, you can kind of do anything in business. So that's how I started on finance. But really, the thought never crossed my mind about culinary school because I didn't see this being my career or a long-term play. not seeing this being a long-term play. I'd never really thought about culinary school. I just kind of looked at barbecue as, oh, it was going to be this hobby. It was going to be something to do. And then obviously that's changed over the years.
What did you think you were going to do? Like, you had a business degree. Did you want to go into business? Were your parents in business? Because clearly as you're going through school, right, you start to figure out what the next couple of years of your life are going to look like. What were you thinking at that time?
Well, I've always, like, as a kid, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, sold baseball cards, had chickens, sold eggs, all those kind of things. And so I think there's an entrepreneurial spirit in me, but really no one in my family, my parents, anyone had been entrepreneurial. And so, but even when I got out of college, I was thinking more of, I worked at public supermarkets for a little while in their corporate office and had an opportunity to go in the software world. And then once I was in software, the money was great. It was a lot of fun, but it really wasn't my calling. And back in 2013, we decided we'd had some success in competition barbecue. We kind of looked around our local area, and me and my cousin and a buddy of mine decided to open a barbecue supply store. And we just thought that the people of our town deserved a friendly place to go get advice, to go get products. And that was really the first jaunt into barbecue being a business. But I was still in the software industry at the same time, kind of just starting that up in a moonlighting point of view. And then from there, it's just really grown.
All right, so let's go back to the barbecue competition thing. Look, so you're cooking for all your buddies, right? And your buddies, they're obviously saying, look, hey, dude, this is great. This is awesome. This is fantastic. Look, I cook for my friends too, and they say, hey, Mark, you did a great job. But I'm not about to enter a cooking competition because I know I'll get my butt kicked. So from that standpoint, when do you know that your stuff is good enough to be competitive, or you don't know and you just sort of wing it?
Well, and that's the funny part. So people are always going to tell you, and let's just look at the math on this. So if you bought all the meat, if you did all the cooking, and you bought all the beer and put it in the cooler, I haven't even had a bite of it yet. It's pretty damn good barbecue.
I see where you're going with this. This makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, so for us, getting started in it was more of a, hey, people say our stuff's good, but we kind of all want to get together as a group and just kind of hang out and cook and compete, because all of us had that competitive fire in us too. So that's how we got started. And believe me, we found out contest one, we did not have the best barbecue. We went to a contest in Kissimmee, Florida, August of 2007, and we entered the backyard or amateur division. And there were 9 teams, and we finished 7th and lost to a troop of Boy Scouts.
Oh, man. Wow.
So while it was a rough start, the one thing I will say about it is the camaraderie and the element of competition that we thought out there. Because it's like you're only really competing during those 4 hours as you kind of turning in your food to the judges. The rest of the time, it's very much if you need brown sugar and I have extra, of course I'm gonna make sure you got brown sugar. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's very taking care of your fellow competitor. So I love that about it. And we were kind of hooked from that point forward, but we definitely realized we had to retool our program, if you will.
So you enter the competition, you lose to Boy Scouts. I'm sorry, that's just that's got to be humbling to say the least.
Haven't made a donation to the Boy Scouts yet.
How did you find the competition? Were you looking for it, or were these things common that you just went to in the past?
They're not super common, so it's funny that we're having this conversation on this day because I just got done dropping my trailer at the contest that introduced me to competition barbecue, and that's Lakeland Pig Festival. So growing up, born and raised in Lakeland, we just had this barbecue competition the end of January every year, and you went out to it with your family and you bought some barbecue and you checked it out and you enjoyed it. And so this was kind of what introduced me to competition barbecue, and that's how I knew it was around. And then just, in the internet, we just went out there and started looking at competition barbecue and found out that there's actually a Florida Barbecue Association that does 30, 40 events a year. And then the Kansas City Barbecue Society has a couple of events in Florida. So that's kind of how we found it. Just kind of started mapping it out. And we started having some pretty good success. We won we moved up to the pro division in 2009 and did really well there. And then we started going outside the state of Florida, and we've cooked about 130 contests across 28 states since then.
Oh, unreal. How old were you when you first entered that competition in 2007?
So, quick math, I'm 42 now, so around 30 years old.
Okay, so you're
31?
obviously relatively young. And in 2 years, you got from the amateur to the pro circuit.
Yeah, and that's really just you make your decision of wanting to step up. And for us, like the first year or two, we were only cooking 3 or 4 contests a year. And one thing about competition barbecue, just like, in any competitive event, is obviously the more reps you put in, the better you are.
Right.
So, if you look out there, the guys that are just tearing it up year after year are guys that are putting in 30, 35 contests a year. And if you think about it, most of those guys have another job. So they're putting in 30, 35 contests a year and still working their day job Monday through Friday. It's pretty impressive to be able to do that. For us, the most and it was when we were cooking our best, was when we were in that 18 to 24 contests a year and really just had a nice groove.
When you opened up the barbecue store, as you said, the intent was just to have kind of a neighborhood-friendly place. Did that make you a better cook and a better chef when doing this stuff for any particular reason, or was that just like a side business that was, I guess, tied into the whole thing?
I mean, it does, because you're talking with your customers. You're bringing in 125 different rubs and 75 different sauces. So you're getting to taste a lot of products. You're getting to experiment with a lot of products. And plus, you're cooking for customer events and this and that, so you're getting in more reps. So yeah, I definitely think it helped become a better cook. The thing about it now, the most challenging part is finding the time to go out and compete on a regular basis.
He is Chad Ward, Whiskey Bent Barbecue and Director of Barbecue Marketing for Traeger Grills, joining us here on Kill the Quit, brought to you by Killcliff. So when you enter a competition, it doesn't matter what circuit it is in, I guess, do you have a signature dish? Like when you go into this, what are you thinking for each one? Or does it kind of depend on, do the contests tell you, each contest tell you what you have to cook? Give me the kind of, kind of statutes of how you enter a competition and what it is.
Yeah, so almost all barbecue competitions are going to be 4 categories. It's going to be chicken, it's going to be pork ribs, pulled pork, and a pork butt, and then beef brisket. So those are the 4 big categories. In chicken, most people are going to cook thighs, or some people cook drums. Everybody kind of stays around that dark meat, but then it just holds up better, has more flavor. And then the other 3 are pretty self-explanatory. Pork ribs, you're going to cook. I usually cook 4 slabs of ribs to depending on what sanctioning body you're in, you have to turn in either 6 or 8 samples. So you get a 9x9 kind of white takeout box, and then in KCBS, the largest barbecue sanctioning body, you put some green leaf lettuce down, and you place your meat in there. You get scored on presentation, taste, and tenderness. That's your 3 aspects.
How does one get to be a judge for this? Look, I tell people all the time, I have a secret goal in life is to be a celebrity guest judge on a cooking show, just because I want the free food. Because I think, listen,
Absolutely.
My stomach is awesome. It loves food. I can tell you what's good and what's not, but I don't think I'm qualified enough to tell you the difference between good barbecue and bad barbecue, because to me, barbecue is great. So, with these people who are judging these things, who are they and how do they get to this position?
So, in Florida, a lot of our barbecue judges are retirees. So that's their home. So, what you do is you go to whatever sanctioning body, FDA or KCBS, and they hold judging classes. So you pay $100, you go to your 4-hour class, they tell you what you're looking for, how to score things, that kind of stuff. And it's really that simple.
So wait, you're telling me I could take a class to become a barbecue competition judge?
You sure can.
Oh, God, I got to do this. This is like on my to-do list immediately. So people basically in the South, I'm based in Atlanta, so if there's a barbecue competition in Atlanta, somebody's going to call me and say, hey, we need you to judge a competition.
Yes, yeah. So what ends up happening is once you sign up as a judge, then you just kind of pay attention online. When a contest posts, then you can put your name in the hat to be a judge, and then they kind of do a random draw. Hey, we've got 40 teams, we need 40 judges. We need to randomly select 40 judges to come out and set this contest.
In all the Kill the Quit episodes I've done, this may be the single greatest piece of information I've ever gotten. Like, this is absolutely fantastic. I mean, I have found a second calling in life. I mean, I don't have a lot of free time, but you know what? If you're going to give me, I tell everybody, if you provide free food, I'll show up anywhere. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you're going to feed me.
If you look at it, every judge gets 6 samples of every protein. So you're going to get at least 6 bites of chicken, 6 bites of ribs, 6 bites of pork butt, and 6 bites of brisket.
You know what I always wondered about the cooking judges? How they put the food down. Because if it's good, I'll just keep eating until it's gone. Like, I don't know how to stop eating something that's delicious.
Yeah, and that's what I said. It takes a lot of, like, I mean, because you think about it, like, that's 24 bites. I mean, if you sit there and go, man, this is a really good chicken thigh, I'm going to eat the whole thing. Well, you can't do that for all 6 and then judge 3 other categories. So, I think it's pretty, but what they do is, and this is kind of funny, we call it the cooler shuffle. So these guys will bring a little cooler with them, and they'll take a bite of it, and if they like it, they'll put it in a little baggie and throw it in their cooler and take it home.
Oh, that is awesome. This is fantastic. I'm serious. Chad, I kid you not. This is the single greatest piece of information I've gotten in doing all this. I mean, this is. I now have a new calling in life.
Yeah, I love it.
That is fantastic. All right, he is Chad Ward. Again, 7-time state champion, 5-time reserve state champion in whiskey bent barbecue and competitive barbecue. When we come back, we'll get into Chad teaching other students how to become barbecue grill masters as well. All of the famous people he has been allowed to serve, the television networks he's been on. There's so much more to get to with Chad Ward here on Kill the Quit, brought to you by Kill Cliff. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Kill the Quit podcast hour, presented by Kill Cliff Performance Drinks.
Kill Cliff, performance drinks for warriors to get you up, get you through, and get you back to full speed.
And now, back to the show with host Mark Zinno.
Welcome back to Kill the Quit, brought to you by Kill Cliff. This week's guest is Chad Ward, barbecue genius, if you will. Also a 7-time state champion, 5-time reserve state champion in competitive barbecue, 200 top 10 overall finishes in barbecue. And, you know, we were talking about competitive barbecue in the competitions a moment ago, Chad, but, you know, you talk about entering 18 to 20 a year. So, you know, for over 200 here, you've now been doing this for 10 years. How do you stay sharp? Like, how many different ways can you cook the same set of ribs that you're bringing something different to each competition?
Yeah, so for me, the competitions the last couple of years have fallen off quantity-wise. But you know, the way, honestly, what you want to do is you want to find a program that works really well, good flavor profile, and literally at that point, it's just complete replication. You want to replicate it every single time you go out. That's why the more times you compete, the more consistent you are. Now, occasionally you'll start to see the flavor profile or the tenderness that they want start to move a little bit. So I always like to have a current flavor profile and program that I'm running, and then a backup one. So that if you start to see the tide's turning a little bit with the judges, you've got somebody to instantly plug in, and you're not going to chase your tail for the next couple of contests.
When it comes to the time for this, how much time are you allotted for each competition, or is it different?
No, so what they do is they have turn-in windows, like the one we're cooking this weekend in Lakeland. You'll turn in your chicken at noon, you'll turn in your pork ribs at 12:30, you'll turn in your pork butt at 1, and you'll turn in your brisket at 1:30. And so based on that, that's when you kind of just back in to what times. But I mean, like for us, we just dropped our trailer on Thursday. I'll shoot you straight. Thursday night's kind of the night that everybody, you know, hangs out, has some cocktails, socializes, and then come Friday morning, you know, that's when you get into making sure your butts and your briskets are injected, seasoning everything, and then, you know, our butts and briskets will go on about 11:30 Friday night, and all the way until, you know, we'll pull them off a couple hours before we got to turn them into the judges.
I know cheating is frowned upon in general, but much like looking over at your classmate's paper to see what he's got, do you ever look over at somebody else's grill and go, what are they doing over there? That's interesting.
Well, honestly, man, there's a lot of competition barbecue. If you're curious about it, the way to do it is you take one of your leftover pieces right after you turn ends over to them and say, hey, do you want to swap turn ends and you know, so we can taste each other's product. And so that's usually how you do it. And most guys are more than welcome to do that. I mean, for me, I've always tried to be a really ambassador of competition barbecue. So I'll have 6 or 8 guys come up after chicken and say, hey, will you taste my chicken? And I'll say, see, man, just don't get offended. I'm probably going to taste it and spit it out because I'm not going to eat, you know, 8 or 9 bites of somebody's chicken and depending on how good they are, you may regret just taking the one bite anyway.
Interesting. How sensitive are certain chefs?
I think that's one of the things. That's the other thing I preface is I may spit it out. And do you want me just to nod my head, or do you want me to give you some serious, criticism? And most of them want to get better. I mean, you're dropping $1,000 to go out on a weekend and be in competition barbecue, and I think most of those guys understand that, and they'd rather see a return on their money than somebody stroke their ego. Makes sense.
I mentioned culinary school before. Did you ever actually go, or is this all just kind of shooting from the hip the whole time?
No, I've never went to culinary school. I've just kind of, continued to a lot of trial and error, and just, the internet's when used appropriately as a treasure trove for just little things to pick up and add to your cooking style.
I ask you that about culinary school because, as I mentioned before we went to break, was you have taught over 4,000 students through barbecue and grilling classes all over the country. So give me the kind of background, how you get into teaching and what's the forum, all that stuff.
Yeah, so I got into teaching probably about 2011, 2012, just before I was opening my own store, with a kind of a kitchen store over in Brandon, and I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed teaching, enjoyed seeing that aha moment. When somebody's been struggling with getting that perfect rib, or more than likely, I like teaching brisket at almost every class because that's the one that really stymies people, and seeing that light go off and people like, oh, that's what I need to do different, or oh, that's what I was missing. That to me is the really fun part, and like I say, when people go to my class, I mean, it doesn't end when class is over. I encourage people to follow me on Instagram. If they have any questions, they can send me a DM, and just kind of continue, helping them become a better cook.
How do you balance the concept of, what you do that is successful in cooking competitions? How do you teach somebody that, and are you giving away like high-level secrets that make you more successful than the next guy?
I don't mind giving up the information because I feel like at the end of the day, I can tell you and show you everything, and you still have to execute it better than I can. And that means the difference is, you can equip people with information, but unless they can execute it on game day, all they are is equipped with information.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's similar to, in that sense, I guess cooking is the great equalizer. I mean, it's kind of like, I'll equate it to football. I could give you my playbook, but if you don't execute the plays the way I do, you're not going to be as successful as me.
Absolutely. And the other thing is there's so many just key decisions, like at the end of the cook, where, is it the perfect tenderness? A lot of times people cook the temperature, and you definitely should, but every animal's lived a different life. So at 208 degrees, last week's brisket that scored really well was done. But because this animal grazed a little harder, whatever the case, it's going to take that one going up to 210. And you don't know that until you're at the end of the cook, and you're literally taking a thermometer or a toothpick and probing that to see exactly where you are.
Chad, so there are obviously tricks of the trade you pick up, as you mentioned, through experience. How do you know something like that? Can you look at a piece of meat and realize that one is more tender than the other? I mean, is it touch? I feel like it is, but obviously there's got to be some tells when you're doing this stuff, and what allows you to know the difference between getting to 208 degrees versus 210 degrees.
It really, to me, it's tenderness. It's and that's a feel thing. You really can't look at it and tell. What you can look at is it getting too dark? Do I need to cover it with foil? That type of thing. But when it comes to the tenderness, you're really just going to achieve that by inserting a toothpick or inserting the tip of your meat probe. And what you want to feel like is almost like if you take a stick of butter and leave it out at room temp for a couple hours, and you go and put a toothpick through it, it slides right in, but has a little bit of resistance in the middle. And you want that little bit of resistance in the middle because you take off a big cut, like a pork butter, like a brisket, it just doesn't stop cooking. You've got so much energy built up inside there and heat. It's going to continue to cook for another 30 to 45 minutes once you pull it off the grill. So you want to have that little bit of resistance in the middle because that's going to break down as it finishes at what we call the carryover cook.
Again, Chad Ward joining us here on Kill the Quit, brought to you by Kill Cliff. I'm your host, Mark Zinno. Chad is the director of barbecue marketing for Traeger Grills. He's got over 200 top 10 finishes in competitive barbecue. More about the actual, I guess, kind of technique. I mean, Of all the things, what's the hardest to pick up? Is it understanding the quality of the meat, flavor profiles, spices, the actual execution of cooking it and how you do it? Is there a ranking of kind of toughest skill to easiest?
I would say so. In the cooking competition, it's the three we talked about are tenderness, taste, and appearance. So to me, I think the importance and the difficulty of learning is just the way I just laid it out. Tenderness. Tenderness is the hardest thing to learn because it's just, once again, one of those putting in reps, and knowing the difference of, hey, that one felt like this, and then once I roasted it and sliced it, it was still up more degrees. Just being able to put together those experiences is why I think figuring out tenderness is toughest. Then when you go to taste, taste is one of those things that it's really in competition, it's the judge's prerogative. My outlook has always been I want to have a flavor profile that an 8-year-old would like, that an 80-year-old would like. I don't want to be too sweet. I don't want to be too spicy. Definitely not spicy. But if I'm going to err on the side, I'm going to err on sweet and savory. And what I want that judge to do is I want him to take a bite and not say, man, that's sweet. Man, that's got a little kick to it. I just want him to go, man, that's a really good bite of barbecue. You almost want your flavor profile to be the best average flavor profile you can have because you don't want to offend anybody. Well, I always tell people if your grandma had a blackberry barbecue sauce award-winning recipe at the county fair, don't run that barbecue competition because you're going to get hammered. Well,
and that's what I was going to ask you in reference to kind of the subjectivity of the judges. I mean, I'm somebody who doesn't mind spice. I like spicy food, Yep. I don't want my mouth burned off with no flavor, but if it's got kick to it, I'm definitely in. So if you make something that is, errs on the spicy side, it might benefit one judge, but might turn off another. So, I mean...
It could turn off the other 5. That's why you want to walk that best average barbecue bite.
That sounds so much tougher than you make it seem.
Yeah, it actually is. I mean, it's one of those where you just want all the notes to hit, but nothing overpowers anything. It's just almost like just an orchestra where everybody just hits their note. One bite, you get a little bit of salt on the front end, some sweet to come behind it, some savory, and maybe a little bit of black pepper just to wake the tongue up at the end. That's really it.
In your teaching of students, can you remember somebody that stood out, or is there a 13-year-old kid all of a sudden that shows up that's just kicking everybody's tail? I mean, what's it like teaching all these people how to do this?
To me, it's a lot of fun. And yeah, I've had some guys that have went on and had some good competition success that I've taught. But the ones that I really like are the people that follow up and say, man, I had 20 people over my house, and I've never been prouder of the meal that I turned out for them. You know what I mean? Like those are the ones. That's somebody that's not focused on being a competitive barbecuer, but to them, man, they just want to have a hobby that they're really good at, and being able to help them get to that point is probably what I enjoy most about teaching.
Have you ever taught anybody that you saw at a competition that beat you?
Oh yeah. It happens, and I always say, hey, if you come to the next one, we're just going to double the entry fee. But I mean, that also makes you feel good. I mean, the other thing that's cool about it is when you have these teams that we call it take a walk, which is finish in the top 10. They've never walked the stage, and you've done it plenty of times and enjoyed it. And when you see them get that first walk and jubilation and just the excitement of their team, man, that really makes it all worth it.
Did any of the Boy Scouts you lost to come to any of your cooking classes down the road?
No, I should have went to a couple of theirs.
That's fantastic. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh at that, but do you look back on that and go, go ahead.
It's a great story. It's a great story. It's like I always said, like, there's no more humble beginnings than that, right?
No, seriously. I mean, you ever seen the movie Dodgeball?
Yes.
Okay, I keep envisioning the Girl Scout troop that beats the guys. That was them looking at you going,
You know what? I've never thought about that, but that's so true.
So okay, let's wrap up the competition stuff here because how do you know, do you have an idea of when you'll stop doing it? Do you ever get bored competing? I mean, because as you said, you're cooking the same thing over and over and over again. And if you're not really trying something new, how do you keep the interest and the passion for this whole thing?
Well, I mean, I think for me right now, not doing as many as I have in the past, it's something I love. I mean, I was so excited to compete this weekend, but I think last year I did 3 or 4, and they were all big events that we were doing with Traeger. World championships like the American Royal in Memphis in May. To me, I just decided that priority-wise, the stuff I'm going to do with Traeger right now, the classes, those things take a priority to me because hopefully competition barbecue will always be there. So if I want to slow my schedule down and quit, traveling 200, 220 days a year and focus more on competition barbecue, I feel like that'll always be there. But right now, these opportunities with such a great brand and so much fun stuff, I just want to make sure I don't miss out on any of that.
Yeah, silly question. Are you good at cooking anything else or just barbecue?
Mostly, I'm not going to tell you I put out a championship risotto or anything, but I enjoy cooking. I enjoy cooking stuff other than barbecue, and one of the reasons I like cooking on Traeger is it really has almost the outdoor oven feel. So you can cook much more than barbecue on it, and just get that little bit of smoke profile that's nice. But yeah, I enjoy definitely cooking. Like I love cooking a good wood fire pizza, those type of things. I mean, absolutely, I enjoy that. And all the people that I invite over to my house and cook for them and give them free beer say it's good.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, hey, it's always a benefit. Does your mother ever challenge you to cooking?
No, she doesn't. She just enjoys it. She just tells me the dishes she really likes and then just says, "Hey, can you make this for me? Can you make this for me?"
That's awesome because I guess after all the years of her cooking for you, it kind of comes back full circle.
Nice to give back a little bit. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's beautiful stuff. He is Chad Ward, our guest of the week. This week on Kill the Quit, brought to you by Kill Cliff. And we come back, how Chad got involved with Traeger grills. And everybody pay attention. I'm going to ask Chad for some grilling tips. So if you need any grilling tips, you do want to stay with us. Don't go anywhere. This is Kill the Quit. I'm your host, Mark Zinno, brought to you by Kill Cliff. We'll be right back.
You are listening to the Kill the Quit podcast hour presented by Kill Cliff Performance Drinks, proud partner of the Navy SEAL Foundation.
Welcome back to Kill the Quit, brought to you by Kill Cliff. I'm Mark Zinno. Chad Ward, our guest this week. Competitive barbecuer, over 200 top 10 finishes, 7-time state champion, 5-time reserve state champion, all the accolades there. You do the director of marketing for Traeger Grills. Tell me how you got involved with them because they seem to be like the creme de la creme of grills nowadays.
Yes. So about 5.5 years ago, Jeremy Anderson, an investment group, bought Traeger Grills. And as all that happened, they kind of just changed how they were going to go to market, this type of stuff. And I was fortunate to meet a gentleman by the name of Denny Bruce, that's SVP of marketing and sales. And he came to my store because at that time we weren't carrying Traeger because the old ownership group, I just didn't kind of agree with the way they went into business. And they didn't do a lot for specialty retailers like myself. So, he came in and looked at the store and we talked and learned a lot about my background and said, "Hey, would you like to be on our pro team, part of our pro staff?" And I was like, "Man, I would love to." So, joined their pro staff, did some classes, did some events for Traeger. And then as they were expanding their marketing department, they decided to hire a director of barbecue marketing. And so as soon as I heard about it, I reached out and they were kind of like, "Well, we thought you were really successful in the software business." I'm like, "Well, I am." I said, "But it's not my passion." I said, "I really like, what you guys have told me the brand's going to do and would love the opportunity." So went out, we had a chat, and that was 2.5 years ago. And since then, man, it has been epic. It's been a ton of fun. Great. You couldn't ask for a better brand to work for and work with. We have great leadership. Our growth's been unreal. Our investment in product and innovation and people is second to none, and just couldn't be happier.
It's interesting because we've come a long way from charcoal briquettes on
Yes,
a grill,
we have.
and nowadays it seems so complicated. I mean, I'm a simple guy, I just got a regular grill with a propane tank, but, I hear my friends, and I know that some of these guys are your competition, but the big green egg thing is out there, and, obviously Traeger and wood chips and all that. I mean, it's become highly complex nowadays.
It really has, and I think what we're finding is people are, we take a good job of listening to our customers for our next product innovations. And I will tell you, I think people are still wanting that to be able to do those artisan type, hands-on cooking things and experiences, but they want to be able to work into their existing schedule. So, one thing that we've done, like if you look at our Timberline models, is they're all cloud connected with our Wi-Fi or technology. And so you can literally put a couple slabs of ribs on your timberline, put your temperature probe in it, make sure your grill's hooked up to the cloud, and go out and play 9 or 18 holes and come home and have ribs ready to feed the family. And people are liking that convenience, but still getting that, smoked, barbecued, wood fire flavor.
It's incredible. What is the next level? I mean, how much more technological can we get when it comes to grilling?
If you'd have told me when I started in 2000, back in the day, we were actually, this is pretty funny, because we wanted to keep an eye on our pits overnight, you would actually buy a video baby monitor and put the baby monitor out by the grill so you can read the temperature, and then have the other end of it in your trailer throughout the night so you can set the alarm every hour and look at it and go, okay, it's still at 10. And go back to sleep for another hour. Whereas now, if my grill drops below a certain temperature, if my meat hits a certain temperature, I get an alarm on my phone that wakes me up and I can go address the issue. So if you had told me that would have been available 10 years ago, I would have been shocked. So I don't know what's next, but I'm sure we're going to continue to keep pushing the limits.
All right, let me ask you some grilling questions here for the average guy who thinks he knows how to grill.
Okay.
Because, look, for me, I love coming home from work and throwing a steak on the grill at home and eating it. I don't mind, even if you're spending $25 on a nice, T-bone or a New York strip that you buy from the grocery store, the Publix, whatever it is, it's still cheaper than the $55 they're charging you at the restaurant. And I feel like I can recreate some of that same flavor and some of that same quality. But, there are people who think they know how to grill, but I'm sure you watch people and they go, that guy, what is he doing to that piece of meat? Is he, do you find it hard not to interject and go, don't do that. Don't do that.
That's why I just don't go to a lot of other people's barbecues. No, I kind of look at it as they bought it. It's their party. If they ask my opinion, like, hey, would you do it this way or would you do it different? How would you do it? I'm more than happy to give it to them. But, if not, I'll just kind of make a mental note in my head and go, yeah, we're probably going to pass on that and grab some takeout on the way home.
All right. So kind of like just for regular, I know you do ribs and briskets and everything else, and that's a more elaborate process, but like just for a steak.
I'm glad you hit on steak because I think we're going to blow some listeners' minds.
My thing is, I think people think they know how to cook a steak. And so I go to the store, I buy a filet, and I want to throw it on the grill. Give me some common mistakes that people make.
Okay, so most people are going to take that steak, they're going to season it, they're going to turn their grill to blazing hot, and they're going to cook it for 3 to 4 minutes each side, depending on the thickness. Turns out a good steak, it's quick, down and dirty. It's not the best steak you can cook at home, by far. The best way to cook a steak is a method called the reverse sear. So reverse sear, what you're going to do is let's just call it an 8-ounce, 2-inch fillet.
Okay.
You're going to take it, you're going to season both sides. I like to let it sit at room temperature for about 10 minutes. The reason I do that is the seasoning is going to get a maintain to the meat. And it's going to give it an opportunity to kind of bond, if you will, which is going to allow you to get some deeper flavors and a better crust on the outside and the side. So then what I like to do is I like to, I cook them on my Traeger. I put the Traeger at 225, and I just throw the steaks on there. If somebody's trying to replicate that on a gas grill at home, the best way to do it is turn your left burner on medium and then cook the steak on the right-hand side. Right, so what you're doing is you're indirectly, slowly bringing the meat up to temperature.
Right.
And I do that until the steak hits about 115 degrees. And then I'll pull it off. I'll crank my Traeger all the way up to high. I'll give it a couple minutes to get to high and to get those grates hot. And then I'll sear it for about a minute to a minute and a half each side until it hits a temperature of about 130 to 132 for medium rare. If you're not eating a steak medium rare, then just eat hamburgers. Medium, okay, but once you go over medium, you let an animal die twice.
Yes. Now let me just tell you, personal preference though, I am a blood rare, cold in the middle kind of steak guy.
Oh yeah, black and blue.
Yep, that's the only way I eat it. People get offended the way I eat a steak. I tell people all the time, if it was socially acceptable to eat raw meat, I would do it.
Dude, look, and hey, if you're gonna do it right, especially if it's your own house, you do that, and then when all those juices run out, you got a piece of killed white bread to soak that up with.
You ain't kidding.
Push the envelope.
That's perfect. That's exactly the way we do it. You mentioned hamburgers, Chad. A lot of people throw hamburgers on a grill. I know the one mistake everybody always makes is they push the hamburger down, which is, completely asinine in and of itself because you're pushing all the juice out of it. But how else should people be cooking hamburgers?
The one thing I would say is, I like to kind of, if you got time, I like to make my own hamburger patty. If you do, in the very top of it, just a very shallow thumbprint in the middle of the burger. It'll keep the burger from arching up. When it's going to get hot, it'll start the hockey puck on the sides. If you make that little indentation up top, it'll keep that from happening.
Wow.
And then the other thing I say is, to me, if you're making kind of bigger hamburgers, what I think is cool is to kind of season the meat itself before you patty it, and then actually season the outside of it more of like a steak seasoning, so you get that really good crust, but you also have that different flavor profile in the middle of it.
I'm getting hungry already, man.
Me too.
So you've had the fortunate pleasure of being on a lot of television, Food Network, NFL Network, NBC Sports, NBC, a whole bunch of Fox affiliates. When people put you on TV about your cooking, what's that feeling like for you?
That's great. You're getting to share your story. You're getting to share what you know. You're helping people become better cooks. So to me, man, I really enjoy it. And when given the chance, like I prefer live TV over tape. I just think it just comes across more real, and it's more of a challenge, and I kind of like that.
You've gotten a chance to serve some very notable celebrities. I'll run a couple of them off here. Kid Rock, Jason Aldean, Joe Rogan, Chris Pratt, Zach Brown, Dan Patrick, Rhys Eisen, Drew Brees. Just a whole bunch of very popular names, including several SEAL team members. Give me, who's been your favorite person to serve? Give me some memories from people that you served that always stick with you.
Well, it's a guy that I know works with Kill Cliff and great dude, but I like sitting down with the Andy Stumps of the world. You know what I mean? Sitting around over a plate of barbecue and talking about base jumping from all different places in the world. To me, that's cool. So I look up to him for all that he's done, his service to our country. But me and him will sit there and get engaged in a 1-hour conversation about nothing but barbecue. So having a skill set and knowledge that people that I admire and look up to can also appreciate what I can share with them to help them in that facet of their life, I really enjoy those. That to me is really cool. I had one of the guys I really enjoyed cooking for was Zach Brown. We were just at a hunting camp in South Georgia, before the end of the year. Sure. Just up there hunting and barbecuing, But just to me, I think the thing that's been most amazing is how many of these guys are so engaged in barbecue and want to know so much more about it, which is really fun to me.
Well, look, I don't want to play like the man masculine card, but for this is very primitive, right? The women were the gatherers and the men were the hunters and the cookers. It's kind of just it's primal from that sense. I don't consider myself a great chef by any stretch of the imagination, but I like to cook. I enjoy especially grilling in and of itself because there's a certain amount of pride you take in preparing and making your own food. So I think that is something that is innate in a lot of guys in wanting to learn about it, and anything you can get better at, I think is worthwhile. Anybody that you've ever cooked for that was not impressed by your food?
Now they said it in my face, and then maybe it's behind my back, but no, everybody's always really appreciative of it. One of the things I like to do, and I probably shouldn't say this in public, is some of those higher profile events, I like to try an item for the first time. Hey, I've done this before, I've done that. I'm going to kind of fuse these together and see if this works. And I haven't had one fail yet, knock on wood. But to me, it kind of helps me not fall in that rut of, here's the same menu we did, last time we cooked for a celebrity. You know what I mean? It kind of helps keep me focused and me, really, really paying attention to it. It's something I've done before.
Joe Rogan is on the list of people you cook for, and the only reason I bring him up is because one of his things is, bow hunting and getting game and everything else. I mean, have you tried to cook other game, elk, yak, moose, whatever it is? I mean, how tough is that?
Yes, I'm very fortunate to be good friends with John Dudley. Knock on. And so Dudley's, we cook several times a year together, usually at one of the hunting camps. And he's always great about bringing elk and venison and different things, and not just the standard cuts, but some inside rounds, some outsides. We did some elk ribs last year when we were in Oklahoma together. So yes, I've gotten to cook a lot of wild game, and that was kind of cool because Rogan heard me on Dudley's podcast explain reverse sear that we just talked about, and I literally went on his podcast a week later and said, dude, this guy Chad Ward changed the way that I cook my food from now on.
That's awesome.
Like, he actually called it the Chad Ward method. I was like, and it was funny. I was at an event, don't know what happened, and I got a chance, to look at my Instagram. And I'm like, how did I pick up like 5,000 followers in 2 days? and so I'm just kind of dumbfounded by it. Don't think anything more about it. One of my buddies from college calls me and he goes, dude, I know you've been doing a lot of cool stuff in barbecues, but I think you've officially made it. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you been listening to Rogan's podcast? I was like, no. He's like, dude, he name dropped you like twice. I'm like, oh, wow, I got to go listen to it then. But they got a chance to meet Joe a couple of times, and dude, he's so intense about barbecue and cooking. He really, really loves it.
That's insane. I mean, I'm a huge Joe Rogan fan. I mean, who isn't, for crying out loud? But, the way he approaches everything like that, and you getting props from him, that must have been just like, as your friend said, you finally made it, right?
It was very cool because I just respect Joe from the point of view of, like, he knows so much about so many things. You know what I mean? And the fact that I can introduce him to one thing that impacts how he cooks his wild game felt really good.
So it is officially now the Chad Ward method.
I'm not saying that, but I did keep the video of Joe saying it.
That is outstanding stuff. Well, Chad, listen, I mean, it's an amazing story. Obviously, there's a lot more for you in the future, and it's just been a blast talking to you. It's just totally different than anything we've done before on Kill the Quit, and I certainly appreciate all the knowledge. I'll keep the reverse sear in mind as I go forward and certainly give it a shot. I, as you said, it's trial by error a lot, so I probably won't get it right the first time, but I'll keep at it because you've taught something new to this student.
Awesome, man. And then, you got my number. If you have any questions, you can feel free to text me. If anybody, like I said earlier, wants to, they can follow me over at BBQ on Instagram. And if you have any questions, DM me. I usually try to get back to them within 24 hours. And thank you guys so much for the opportunity to come on. And I got to say, my favorite drink is Blood Orange Killcliff and Tito's Vodka.
There you go. It is an outstanding drink in and of itself. Again, Whiskey Bent Barbecue on Instagram. He is Chad Ward here on Kill the Quit, brought to you by Killcliff. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
WFON
and W292 EV Marietta,
a Dickey broadcasting station.
live from the Wellstar Health System Studios.
1230 and 106.3 FM, The Sports X.